What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanchi, and we are here with Spartacus, House of Ashur, Season 1, Episode 4, titled Blood and Bone. The director of this episode was Maya Riglo. The writer was Iwoma Oferdyer. And the cinematographer is Andrew McGeorge. Okay, so this episode is actually the most like timeline chronically cohesive episode. So we're actually going to go through this from start to finish, hitting on a lot of the hot spots that was going on into the jaw dropping ending, y'all. And we're getting into some thoughts and some predictions. So for those of you, if this is your first time listening, those of us in press, we got the opportunity to see the first 5 episodes. So I haven't been really doing any of my predictions because I know what goes on, within the first 5 episodes. But we're getting to some things where I'm just like, I got questions and I don't know. And I'm speculating and I'm predicting because obviously there's 5 more episodes to this season for a total of 10. So now we're getting into our bag. We're getting into our spidey senses. And it's like, Steve, what do you have in store for us? So I know what they got in store for this episode. So let's drop into the house of one said Ashur. So we're there. We're in the lettuce sands, and it's Achillia versus 3 people. You got Tarchon, Aratos, and Ephesius. Now, I feel like Ephesius kind of been handling her with a little bit of caution because he saw Creticus get his penis ripped off in front of his very eyes. So I just feel like Ephesius is not going to fight her one-on-one, but if he got like some battle buddies, then, cool. He'll jump a woman, but he ain't gonna see her sword for sword, blow for blow. So she's there and she's fighting. And again, she shows promise, but honestly, all of them are just wild and blindly fighting based on emotion and just a lack of logic and a lack of control. So Tarchon ends up getting the best of her, and he says, "You assume proper place for a weakened animal." So she laying down on the ground and she pissed. You can see it in her face. She calculating on how she gonna get her lick back. And Ashur comes out and he's peeing on the ground. And he's like, "So you finna stay down here with the piss and shit, or are you gonna get up and get back to it? Okay, I'm over here trying to groom you as a champion of this house. Get your ass up." But the thing is, if she's able to beat 3 grown men, even though their brains are equally the size of like a pea in a large pod, then she might be good to go with the brothers Ferrets, okay? Because they're shorter, they're less than half the size. So then they have less power. So the way that they're kind of training her is like, listen, if you could be 3 grown men, that's basically 6 Ferrets brothers. So it's definitely a smart tactic for Chorus and for Ashur to put her through the ringer. They saw Locust and what underestimating the brothers did for him. And so I like the approach that they're taking with her. Although it's like, you gonna take this approach with the dudes? Seeing my sis get beat up like this is just like, oh my God, girl. Land a blow sometime today, okay? But all of this is happening and a message comes in from Crassus, and it's basically, all it says is prepare for a round. Ashur's flipping over the paper. He's shaking the box and he's like, "That's it." And Hilarious like, "Well, the luggage got sent here and he wants you to put his luggage away." And so Ashur's like, who he think I am? And even Hilera was like, this is the work of a slave. And so you're already seeing like he has the blessing of Crassus in name, like I said in the last episode, but he's still treated like a slave, like a Syrian, as less than. And this is really like a slap in the face. Yes, I have your protection, and yes, you let me get this house, but you're not giving me any money. We in debt. I'm going broke. So like, what is this? It's like having the title of a lord or a king with no kingdom. And that's basically where Ashur is. And so it's just like slap in the face after slap in the face, especially from last episode. So he's talking to Hilera, and you're really getting like a sense of their relationship and the fact that he treats her like a confidant. And so even the last episode, he kind of snapped off on her, but they made one wonders if he would ever let her take proper place at his side as Domina, because she has points and she be laying out thoughts that he's thinking and things that he hasn't even thought of, and she be right. Okay, so I'm definitely curious as to where this is gonna go, because she has a lot of say-so in his life. But moving along, we're over at Kasutia's house, and she is getting the needs met. You got Operator sitting there laying up because he done brought one of the men from his house to go ahead and do a little kindness on one Kasutia. And I love that when she was done, she was gossiping with him, and she was like, how I wish aged husband possessed such artful tongue beyond oration in the Senate. And it's like, girl, no, you did not just eloquently tell us that Gabinians don't know how to eat no coos. What? Like, that's crazy. But I love the honesty of it all. And honestly, though, I also love like the voyeur of all things. And even Opera being like, hey girl, were you pleased? And she's like, of course. So they're sitting here and they're gossiping, and Operator brings up the dead bodies in the street that were found after the storm. One of whom was Fides, who worked for Proculus, right? So Kasuti is like, my word, bodies in the streets of Capua? Wow, I didn't hear such a thing except for now. And her face is like still guilty, but she's talking and she's chatting, and Alberton petitions during this conversation for the House of Ashur to be in these games. And so she's like, why do you keep talking about them like they're less than? And, Chorus is brought up in this conversation, and Operator is just like, well, I'm doing a favor for the doctore of the house. So, Ashur gets my support by way of my support of Chorus. And, in turn, in the future, I may need to cash in on a favor. And Kasuti is like, hey girl, I don't know how many favors you're going to be cashing in on, because I heard that Chorus is gravely injured from the streets that you were talking about, even though I just said that I didn't know any of those people and I didn't really know what was going on. And Operator's like, you heard what? My man got up out of there quick. And I really need to know, what horse and carriage did he ride on? Because Chorus is at the house. He's getting bandaged up. And to be honest, he got stitches, but it didn't go past the second layer of his skin. So, it'll heal over quite nicely. And as you can see, he is rather put together. He's pissed, And, he's telling Ashur, I think it was Proclus. And Ashur's like, okay, but did they say? And he's like, he didn't say, but like, who else can stand us for real, right? And so, Chorus is there and he's angry and he don't want to see a doctor. He don't want to see the medicus. He's just like, get me back out here. And Operator comes in. I swear to God, I'm pretty sure Operator has Pegasus in his back pocket. The way in which he got there and the speed is baffling to me. It didn't give like a little bit of time had passed. And I love this because ride for your man. So Operator goes in and Asher's like, hey bro, what's up? Actually, thank you for the grain. Love it. You didn't have to do that. And Operator's just gonna like, oh, no worries, but that's not why I'm here. Chorus, heard you was on your deathbed. And Asher's looking back and forth and he's like, oh no, but he could use some tending to. So why don't y'all go into my bath and, make things right. So Chorus is in the bath, Operator's in the bath, some girl, one of the housemaids is in the bath. And, she's bathing Chorus and she's tending to the wound. She's making sure she's not getting anything on it. We don't want to get it infected. And Operator's like, girl, leave now. He glides over and he's like, a woman's hands, they're so rough. But mine are smooth as marble, baby. And I can heal you. And so Chorus, again, y'all already know, I'm not going to repeat what I did last episode, but y'all already know, like Chorus is like, the temperature is rising in this bath. And one of the things that I like in this conversation is the fact that although Operator told Achillea that, he'll cash in on a favor in the future, you can really see that he likes Chorus. And Chorus, Asher's like, hey, get as close to Operator as you can because, he's Achillea's like gay bestie and figure that out. But they genuinely like each other, and that back and forth, that playfulness in the face of Operator thinking that Chorus was dying. There's no play in here. We're naked. There's nothing between us. Let's chat for real. But Chorus uses the games and the entry into them as like a shield almost. And Operator's like, you mentioned this twice. Is that really the only reason that you're entertaining me? And he's like, I'm just here. I'm just trying to serve my dominance. Nothing against you, babes. So Operator is just kind of like, okay. And he says something that was so sexy. And he goes, next time you find yourself in need, part lips, and I will storm Olympus to see you satisfied. And I said, I know that's right. Why? Because Chorus, your Red Bull gives him wings. And even Chorus was like, that's a lot of talk for somebody who is as small as you. And Operator's like, you light my fire. I don't care how slim I look when it comes to your name. No one will get in my way. And they share a lovely moment in the bath, right? So we back in the streets, right? Proclus is out and he has his champion of his house fighting in the streets and, doing everything. And he jumps up on this pedestal as if he's the one who's the actual champion. And so Ashur left Chorus back at home because he's like, you need to heal, see to your man, let him tend to your needs. I'm gonna go out on the street. So Ashur sees him and, you know, he like calls him out or whatever. And instantly, Proclus is like, here we go again. They cannot stand each other. And it reminds me of a middle child and the youngest child in the way that they battle. Like the oldest, they're going to be so far removed. They hit puberty first. At the end of the day, like when you're the eldest, everything is beneath you. Now you're like, oh, that's for kids. That's for children. I don't dabble in that anymore. But Proclus and Ashur are like the siblings that are Irish twins. They're like 9 months to 18 months apart. And they're so close that they actually fucking hate each other. So Proclus is, you know, hitting some low blows to Ashur. And one of the Ferret's brothers ends up throwing a peach and hitting him in his head. So, of course, everybody's laughing and they're ridiculing him. And then everybody that's in the circle starts throwing all types of food and compost and everything to Ashur. And Proclus is just like, you know, you're not big and bad and you're a no fucking body when your giant is not standing behind you to enforce anything. So we back at the house and it's lunchtime and Celadus goes over to Achillea's table. Now, she is eating, it's just slop. And quick sidebar, I went to this restaurant. I went to a restaurant last week and I ordered mushroom soup. And I'm thinking like, oh, you let me get something light. Let me get a nice broth, you know, a good beef in vegetable broth or like a bone broth with some sliced shiitakes that was lightly seared and sliced and placed inside, you know, something warm, something to get the belly rumbling or whatever. And I was given a bowl, which was like stone cement color, a little bit of sage green in there. And the soup was like ground up mushrooms. And it was like a thick, like paste type soup. And I looked at it and I looked at my wife and I was like, this is what that lady is feeding Achillia and Spartacus. What the fuck is this? I didn't even eat it because I'm looking at it like it looks like elephant dung. It was terrible. And that's basically what Achillia has been eating. So Celadus comes over and she's like, hey, they seem to like you. Can you hug a sister? Okay. Because what the fuck is this? Right? It's not giving me any of the nutrients, any of the energy that I need to fight these three people. And more so, I come from a place with seasonings, babes. What is this? It tastes like ass. And Celadus is like, girl, I did not come over here to talk about lunch. I came over here to give you a few words of wisdom. And he says, one fights with singular mind, best him and the others will fall. And Achilles like, are you giving me advice to beat your son? And Celadus is like, listen, as interim doctor, I'm just letting you know that you're doing too much. The Ferris brothers, they fight as a singular person with a singular mind. Right now, you're fighting three people and one of whom wishes to be the star of his own show. So, exploit the weaknesses. You do not have power on your side. And so he walks away, right? So Ashur ends up coming back during this moment. His tunic is fucked. And what does he do? We go into abusive mode. And this is a mode that we really haven't seen Ashur take. Like, he fights the people in the arena, but that's the arena. Like, those are the rules of the arena. But he's in this space where he's made to feel small and he has no power in the area in which he wishes to have power. And so he comes home and he abuses verbally everybody in the home because he won't take it out on the people who actually deserve it. So he pulls them all out. He looked like shit. He yelling at them like it's their fault. He was like, you eat my fucking food. You eat my fucking food. You drinking my wine. You fucking these bitches that I get up in this house. And then not a single one of y'all is ready to compete. All y'all motherfuckers suck. Put this food back. Get the fuck back outside because I'm over it. So everybody's like, okay, like, let me scuff a couple of pieces of dry ass bread in my mouth because something crawled up your ass and died. But, you know, it is what it is. So we're moving in. It's the next day. Ashur, we sleep it off, boo. And we're back, and it's 3 versus 1 again. So Achillea is getting her ass beat. Celadus steps in, and he's like, girl, I just fucking told you how to win this fight. Hello? So she ends up, she's fighting, she's looking, she singles it out. So she easily beats and bests Aritos and Ephesius. Honestly, they're not the best fighters of the trio. And when Tarchon sees this, first off, he's hanging back and not even fighting with them. So this is cluing you in to the fact that he just wants all of the attention. So when Ephesius and Aritos gets knocked down, he comes out and he's, trying to jump and get on her. But all she got to do is just wait, find her moment, and she ends up knocking him down with both of her swords. At that point, it's very easy to then pick off Ephesius and Aritos one by one. Tarchon was down for quite some time. And so she gets back up and she's like, walking over to Tarchon. And she repeats the same thing about animals. Because what did you say? Laying on the ground all week? I love how petty she is. This is the second time that she done fucked a man up and repeated his very words back to him after she defeated him. I love being petty. It's absolutely incredible. And I think more people who deserve to be petty should absolutely be petty. And this was very much deserving. So later on that night, Tarchon and Celadus, they're kind of having it out. And he's like, so you just whispering in her ear on how to defeat your son? And Celadus is like, I'm Doctor. I'm telling her how to win. I've been telling your ass your whole life about the impulse in which you fight. And you don't listen. So if you don't listen and you don't get better, and then somebody else takes my advice and beats your ass, how you blaming it on me? So Tarchon is not liking what he hears. He tries to do a sneak attack against his dad. And he's like, bruh, you're literally proving my point. You are attacking on impulse without thought. And yet you're frothing over being bested by a woman? That's the least of your worries. And even before all of this, Tarchon was like, oh, I feel like my father taught me. Yeah, when you were like fucking 12, my dude, grow up. Since he first taught you how to fight, he's been giving you lessons along the way and you just refuse to do it. Why? The arrogance in Tarchon is going to get him killed. And even Celadus was telling Achillia, like, I don't want him in the arena, so I'm going to make sure You are the house champion because he's trying to vie for that position, but he is not ready. My son will get his ego hit, and next thing you know, I'm watching him get skewered on a sword. And he don't want that to happen because at the end of the day, Tarchon is not ready. He whines like a petulant child, and it's so fucking annoying. And I'm just like, Celadus, bruh. Where's his mama? Is she alive? Can we reach back out? Can she come work for the house? He needs something. Cause he don't fucking listen. He's hard-headed. And it makes me wonder about his demise and the future. But we love Jordy Weber, though. We love him. But Tarchon, yeah. Very annoying. If he was my sibling, I would probably pull every prank imaginable on him because he makes it easy. And then he thinks he can win. And he can't. And that is the point. But, he hasn't learned it. I don't know. Maybe he just got hit in the head too many times and it's just not clicking. Anywho, we're back with Casutia and Viridia. And Casutia is like, girl, your man is dead. He's ash and bones. You need to get back out there. And Viridia's like, Mom, I am grieving. And Casutia said, girl, we can only grieve so much. You need to get back on this wagon. Get back on the horse. And Viridia's like, ma'am, I want to ride a horse. And the thing that gets Viridia out of the house was so hilarious to me because Casutia is like, hey, girl, your favorite seamstress? She just got that Egyptian linen. What do you say? And Viridia's like, Egyptian, you say? I could use some increased thread counts in my wardrobe. Okay, sure. Let's go. So we out and about, we in the streets, and Horatia spots a widow. And Casutia's like, girl, jump on it. And Viridia's like, I could have sworn you said Egyptian linen. And I'm looking at the linen of this man and it's telling me that he can't even afford this conversation. So again, take me where you said you was gonna go. So they're making their way downtown, shopping fast. And Horatia is just running her mouth as she always does. When an axe finds its way into her brains. Now, we're looking at the people and they're on the attack and they're trying to get to Casutia and Viridia. And if you're looking and you're paying attention, in a previous scene, Ashur and Chorus had already kind of seen them in the streets, and Ashur was like, hey, let's get what we came here to get and let's get the fuck out of here. He's not trying to be a spectacle anymore like he was the day before. He's out here with Chorus. He got his man. Everything is good. Let's get our shipment, pay these hoes, and be gone, right? So as they're minding their business, those same people that they ended up seeing were there to snatch up Viridia and Casutia. So it is just another bloodbath in broad daylight looking to attack and snatch women of nobility. So there's a whole bunch of chaos going on. Chorus and Ashur from around the corner, and they realize like who is actually getting seen. And I love this because Ashur ran up the corner and he was just like, bruh, I knew that was gonna be a problem. And then he's like, oh shit, like it's Casutia and Viridia. And it made me laugh because I'm just like, and if it wasn't who it was getting attacked, I genuinely think Ashur would have went home. But he's like, okay, he came in good conscience and good faith. Leave them out there. And so Casutia ends up asking one of them, like, why are you doing this? Like, what's going on? And he was like, you need to ask your husband. And so now it's like, hold up. What does Gabinius have going on that she does not know about? And we know from last episode, he told her, hey girl, quietude befits you. And he basically said, shut the fuck up and get out of my business. And so now his business is causing one or both of them to be kidnapped. And even the guy was like, we only just need one. Kill the other one because we in and out. So they're fighting and they're doing everything. And Ashur ends up going after the guy who took Viridia. And she's doing all that she can to fight and get away. And she ends up biting her assailant. And just when he's like, you know what? I'm not going to take this for no woman. He holds his sword up. But before he can do anything, there's a sword going from the back of his head and out of the front of his mouth. So Kasuti is over there. She picks up the sword. She's trying to do the best that she can, but baby, she knows like the concept of a sword fight, but not like an actual sword fight. This ain't the dagger that you use to slit fighters' throat babes. You're gonna have to do more than that. And so they're fighting. The people are going. We're getting them all out, and she sees Chorus standing there with the sun behind him. And so there's like a halo look. And like this man was sent from heaven. But there's straight fear in Kasuti's eyes because she just tried to have him murdered last night, right? And so Chorus is stalking up to her and she's just like, oh my God, he fucking knows it was me. And just when she thinks her life is about to end, he ends up cutting down two people from behind her that she didn't know that was coming behind her to end her life. So, you know, he's like, I got you. Everything is good. And Kasutia said, oh God. She says, I thank the gods you were present and had not succumbed to rumor of previous wounds. Girl, shut up. Shut up, girl. There was no rumor. This was you because you thought that it was fact because of finance. And so at this point, when she says that, Chorus and Ashur has gotten her and Viridia back to their house. And Gabinius, he loves his daughter. And Viridia's like, no, it was not the gods that saved us. It was Ashur. And yet again, I seek apology upon my lips to thank you. Gratitude. And Ashur's like, it's nothing. I does this. And Gabinius is like, you know, go get in the bath. You know, we need to seek vengeance because Ashur and Chorus ended up seeing like one of the seals, and it ended up being, who are they? They are oh my God, I don't want to mess this up. I forget. I wrote it down. Yes, Cilicians. There it is. The Cilicians are responsible for the attack. So they go, they're getting washed up, and for their valor and their bravery, Gabinius ends up granting Ashur his greatest wish. So Chorus is not there at this time. He ends up sending him back home to just send word, and, you know, it's just chaos. And he's like, Chorus, go home. I'm gonna be good. And so Ashur's like, why are you doing this? And Gabinius was like, don't get it twisted. I'm only doing this so that I don't owe you any debts. And since you saved the lives of the greatest people that's in my life, I will grant you the greatest thing that you want in yours. And so when Ashur comes back home, Hilera is in the middle of going the fuck off on Chorus because she's like, how did you leave him there? When Ashur walks in, blood all over the place, and he's like, it's a celebration. He is happy, he is horny, and he is rock hard, and he's like, gather the men, get the horse, get my bath, because tonight we're gonna have a ball. So he's telling all the men and lady, like, hey, we have secured a position in the games. House of Ashur is about to reign from everybody's lips. Let's party. And Hilera comes back and she was like, hey, Crassus, is he here? And Ashur's like, oh my God, let me have to get ready. I have to get out of these bloody clothes. And Chorus is like, well, when you're done sucking the proverbial dick, I would love for you to act like a normal goddamn person for once. And Ashur's like, no. We gotta look good. We gotta look perfect. Everything is great. We just got some great news. Like, we need to be on our best behavior. Shoulders back, chin up, chest out, 3 paces back, 1 to the left. Let's do this. So the carriage comes up and Ashur's like bowing and he's like, sir, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. And he looks up and Julius says, hello. And Ashur's like, what the entire fuck? So there's that. Episode ended on Julius Caesar and Cornelia entering the ring. What are they up to? I don't know. Gonna have to continue to watch week after week, but I have a few thoughts that I would like to go over for this episode. First and foremost, I'm questioning Tarchon's allegiance to his father. And I sit right now in the balance of, will Celadus's love and blind spot for his son be his downfall? Because earlier he said he puts the house above everybody, even blood, but I don't believe that. So I'm like, will Tarchon be in a situation where Celadus will have to save him and die because of it? Or will Celadus die because of his son's envy and jealousy of living in his father's shadow? A sore spot that Achillia found and poked at earlier in the day. So I'm definitely watching that dynamic between those two. Speaking of Tarchon, I love him and Achillea's beef. Like, it's like Tarchon is fighting her, not just because she's a woman, but she has his father's attention. And so it's very much giving when you've been the only child for like a decade, and then your mama come and be like, we're pregnant. And now you don't really know how to function without all the attention being on you. He hates that his father tends to her. But the thing is, he tends to everyone. So why are you mad and focusing on this? And so it puts him in a place where he's acting out like a goddamn toddler. And it makes Achillea, in the way that she taunts him about it, it just makes it really fun in the face of like all the blood and guts and everything that's happening in the series. We're speaking of the blood is everything. Again, I love that they're staying true to what we know of Spartacus and they're not holding any punches. Even though they've gotten smoother with the transitions, it's still, like I said before, it still feels like you're watching like a very gruesome play, but it's not like making fun of itself. Like I said before, like if you go watch the 2012 version now, felt like a PowerPoint slide, but now it feels like something smoother in the transitionings while still staying true to how gory and how just raw and violent that it is. But that's what it's known for. The other thing I think that is really interesting is that Ashur thinks Chorus is faking affections to Operator. And it was very interesting and kind of funny when Ashur brought this up and Chorus was like, oh, yeah, it's a relief to not be forced into his company. Because Ashur was like, hey, we in the games now. You ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to pimp yourself out. Like, it's all good. And at first, Chorus was confused. But then he's like, oh. And even though Chorus and Ashur definitely operate like brothers, it brings me back to the conversation that Fides was having when he was like, should I tell him your past? And so it's like, what parts of Chorus is he keeping from Ashur, to the point where Ashur is not really clocking Chorus's need for affection, and that he thinks this is a ploy with him. And so the fact that Chorus hasn't divulged any of this to him, I'm like, okay, now I want to know, what else doesn't Ashur know? And Chorus rides for him. So I would be sad if there's like a double crossing thing going on. I don't think so, but I would be sad. Then, speaking of that, Chorus genuinely looks suspicious of the Benians just handing Ashur a place in the arena. Like, what should be a joyous moment is seen with Chorus looking at Ashur as if Ashur should be questioning the ease of this. And Ashur's like, look, I saved his wife, I saved his daughter. He gave us this. But it really is like, okay, life for a life, but life for that is just another moment for him to try to ridicule you. But Ashur's not seeing that right now. And so I'm just like, for Chorus to be reflecting on this, and you can kind of see it in his body language and his facial expressions, that's what makes me think, I don't think he'll betray Ashur, but there has to be something in his past that must be connected to Ashur that would hurt Ashur. I think there's something that he did that if Ashur found out, he would be hurt. And Chorus is afraid to tell him because it may destroy their relationship. I could be looking too deep into this, but that's what it's giving. And just speaking of relationships, I think Crassus is double crossing Ashur. Because why is Julius here? Why is Ashur going out and trying to procure food and supplies and all of these other things in your name, but he's the one paying for it and you don't pay for anything? Like, it's giving setup. It's giving Crassus, granted him this title, but it's a house built on quicksand. And I don't know, man. Will we see Crassus this season? I feel like we need to see Crassus. And potentially with like his head on a pike. But people are afraid to cross Ashur because of the name, but Crassus is crossing Ashur. He's crossing him. And speaking of double crossing, again, I'm sitting in it. I think Messia is gonna cross Hilera in a way that will harm Ashur. We're seeing this episode where Hilera is talking to her as if Hilera is the domina of the house. And Messia is not taking too kindly to that. And when the subject comes up again, where Hilera's like, listen, I can't give you what you need. Like, I'm just trying to navigate in this awkward situation. Messia's like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna just do what I'm told to do. Whatever it is, what it is. But you can still see in her face that it contradicts the words that she's saying. And I just don't, this is not gonna be good. And so once again, multiple swords aimed at Ashur's back. Which leads me to my final thought. With the way that everybody is still treating him, and we know that he can't quite remember everything in his past life. You know, he has dreams, but when he wakes up, he doesn't remember. And I'm like so curious to know, what does everybody else truly know about him? There's such hostility towards him, but he has no memory of this. So of course he's walking through town, you know, I defeated Spartacus. I defeated the rise of the rebellion. You know, I should be thanked. And it's the opposite treatment. Honestly, it's worse than if he was still a gladiator. And so I'm just like, they have to know something about his life that he has no conscious idea about. Because the treatment is starting to feel like personal. More than just a class war, it feels like they're taking personal attacks against Ashur and against what he's trying to do beyond being a former slave, former gladiator who now has a house. I just don't think that they would treat anybody else like this. So I'm definitely curious as to like getting back into some of the dreams and stuff that he's had. We saw the dream in episode 1. Of course, that sets the tone of how we're able to make this season. But I would love to go back into a dream and pull some clips from previous seasons and of Spartacus, and maybe some reshoots with the alternatives to kind of like get a better picture of what's going on. But speaking of the history of that, shout out to this episode really name dropping Gannicus, Crixus, Spartacus as the former gods of the arena of the House of Ashur. And then I was on Instagram, and on the Spartacus Instagram page, they posted a clip of Liam McIntyre watching and reacting to the episodes. And he ended up taking over the role of Spartacus in season 2 and beyond. And so it was just like a girl's dream to see how impactful the show is and just how good it is, and knowing that the people who brought this to life and kind of helped create it and make it the franchise that it is supporting what's happening now, supporting the new characters, supporting Nick, supporting Steve, and the way that this is moving forward. And so it's just a real family dynamic, and that's the best thing that you can have in the show, with a group of creators just trying to tell a story as best as they can. And of course, doing what they do, we're just trying to do, as my shirt says, which is unfuck the world. And the way that we do that is through creating, through sharing, through fellowshipping, and just having community with one another in spaces in which we all have similar interests. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen, or you want to listen because you're coming up on a long trip, go ahead and share that Spotify and the Apple Podcast link. You can also find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post things with film and TV news and updates, as well as my articles being linked on there as well. And in my articles, I write about things that I do not talk about on the show. It's some good reads. You should go ahead and check it out and share that with your friends too. You can also find me on TikTok at Kiwanchi, where I do short form review and recaps of things that I don't necessarily talk about on this platform, or I talk about it in a different way on TikTok. You can find me on my main Twitter page at Kiwanchi. Again, everything arts, entertainment, music, all of those things I talk about, as well as the podcast official Twitter page at Pod. So there's that. And with that, y'all, I'm gonna catch y'all in the next episode.